This mouse started everything. Tournaments, the trophies, the lines of gaming mice designed for the best of the best. It's f***ing Stuart Liu! Sadly, not really. The first gaming mouse actually goes to the title of Razer, called the Razer Boom Slang. Yeah, not really the most ergonomic. Have fun playing Ultima Online with early onset arthritis, I guess. But something must have at least inspired them to create such a horrible piece of f***ing shit. What the f*** is that? Now, just because mice were not branded for gaming did not mean they weren't good for gaming, such as the case for the IntelliMouse Optical and the Wheelmouse Optical. First made in 1997 and revised and redone all the way up to 2003. And let me just say, the sensor on these things were actually surprisingly insane for the time. Seriously, to get a mouse that actually tracked fast movement was groundbreaking. Notably used in early days of arena shooters like Unreal, Quake, Doom, and CS 1.6, but that's basically it. FPS esports, like any other esport in those days, were small, and you really didn't need a great sensor or shape for the early days of StarCraft or Dota. So people back then who played those games, they weren't really that picky for mice. So why am I mentioning this? Well, it's because today we're looking at the Ninjutso Katana, the one-to-one rendition of the IntelliMouse Optical 1.1a. Now, when I mean one-to-one, I mean the shape is really one-to-one. Every other part of it is changed to fit for more modern standards, such as better cable, better sensor, obviously. Stupid low weight, like stupid. Like this shit is like 60 grams. Very impressive for a mouse that has no holes and is a larger size. Typically, larger size mice are pretty heavy, but this one, not so much. You may know of my other review of the Ninjutso Origin 1X from the exact same company. If you haven't watched the video, check it out in the top right. But unlike their other mouse, this mouse is not wireless. It's wired. May have spoiled it before by just saying that they improved the cable, but you know what I mean. Personally, for me, it doesn't really matter too much if something's wired or wireless. However, for a lot of people, they would love their old shape but wireless. However, I guess not for now. Also, if you guys happen to still like my mouse reviewing content, let me know by leaving a like or comment on which mouse I should review next. But with the history over, let's get to the mouse. Jesus, dude, how do you work this? And here is the mouse in question. Excuse the poor camera quality. Hope you guys can at least see it. And if you have an issue with it, well, too bad, because I'm f***ing poor. So I'm gonna first go through the buttons, cables, shape. Personally, I'm not really that interested into testing out the buttons as long as they work, but just for you guys' convenience, I will do so. So the mouse 1 and mouse 2 clicks are pretty damn good, but the only gripe, not really a gripe, but like, you know, the slightest thing to really mention is that there is like a good millimeter or two of travel. Unless you're dying of starvation, you shouldn't really have an issue with like clicking these two. It's just that you have to travel for like 2 millimeters. And I'm pretty sure the reason why these two clicks are very easy to get is just because they cut the shell from the click. So it's a lot easier to click on, and it's probably why it feels very snappy. And cable, it's good. It's really, you know, again, not really much to comment on. It's a good cable. It's not as good as a paracord, but it's not as bad as a stiff cable from like the 2016s, but it's good. It's not really much for me to comment on. And now let's talk about something I'm actually interested in. Shape. So if I were to hold the mouse like this, which is how I typically hold stuff, now measuring my grip width where my fingers are, and notice how I'm measuring it from the top, I'll explain why soon. Grip width comes out to be 59 millimeters. So if your hand width from here to here, 10 centimeters plus, this should be pretty okay. But what should I compare this to? Well, so number one, the Superlight or the G-Pro Wireless, either or, and the S1 from Zowie. Divina Pink. So, as a gross simplification, very similar to the G-Pro Wireless, but a few caveats, right? On a profile level, it's very similar to the G-Pro Wireless, except as you can tell, the G-Pro Wireless has a little bit of material here to add some sort of a back hump, while this accentuates that metal hump. Look at that. fucking shit. Another difference between the G Pro Wireless, which is why I brought the S1, is because it wings out a lot more aggressively in the back compared to G Pro Wireless, right? As you can tell, the back here wings out, while for the G Pro Wireless, not so much, only a very, very little bit. It's basically just as aggressive as the S1. But one thing you may notice, actually, is that notice how for the S1 it tapers in. Same thing with the G Pro Wireless. Well, as an evidence of old age, this tapers out, although not as much as you think, but it still does taper. So that's why I measured from the top rather than the bottom, because for new mice, right, they taper in, so you have a better way of picking this mouse up. But because it tapers out, you'll have to measure from the top, which may or may not make this mouse a little awkward to pick up. By no means a fault of Ninjutso, right? Rather, they just wanted to copy a mouse one-to-one and keep the shape as authentic as possible, which I kind of appreciate, actually. But just to overly simplify it, think of this as a G Pro Wireless with the backside of an S1, except there's a hump in the middle and it tapers out. Fucking weird. But honestly, surprisingly not a bad mouse. If I were to rank this mouse would be a B tier. The reason being, the shape is somewhat niche and would require someone who would prefer to put downward pressure on the sides of the mouse. Every other factor of the mouse is pretty damn good. But if I were to you, I would pick up the mouse if you do happen to fit that niche category, love the shape since the early 2000s, or you want to own a little bit of reborn history. Like my dumbass. Man, I'm gonna fucking do it. The price is very fair, and you can pick this up on a dice. Link will be down below. And thank you guys for watching my review. Hope you guys learned quite a bit. And if you want more content like this, be sure to like and subscribe.